Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, the contract is up for Stray Hearts Animal Shelter, and now Martin County officials are taking over. Today is the last day for the rescue. WYMT's Marianne Fletcher talked with some who say they are worried.
Local animal rescue volunteers tell me they are worried county officials will begin euthanizing animals before they can get their hands on them.
Animals were put down all the time. Nobody even attempted to make any efforts to find them homes.
Before contracting with Stray Hearts Animal Rescue, Martin County's animal shelter was what many know as a kill shelter, holding animals for 5 days, then sending them to be euthanized. Cynthia McGinnis with Hillbilly Paws Animal Rescue is now worried the dog warden will not have time to properly care for the dogs.
I'm not saying that our ACO is a bad person. He's a great guy. He tries, he really does. He's one person who has 2 jobs.
County officials say under their contract, euthanizing the animals will be their last resort.
We still want to continue to be a no-kill shelter, and if that doesn't work out, it would be a last resort that we would turn back to a kill shelter.
District 5 Magistrate Victor Sloan says they hope to work with the 2 rescue organizations in the county to give the best care for the dogs.
And our hopes is that we'll still be able to continue to work with the 2 organizations that's here in the county that would allow folks to still come up and rescue these dogs.
McGinnis says her main worry is for the animals, and she hopes that county officials will do, in her opinion, what's right. In Martin County, Marianne Fletcher, WYMT Mountain News.
Tomorrow is the first full day the county will control the shelter. Right now, there are no animals on the shelter's property.
Well, it's been another warm day here in the mountains. Hopefully you got out to enjoy it. We've seen a few clouds throughout the day, so hopefully that kept you a little bit cooler as well. You'll notice as you take a look at the National Weather Service camera in Jackson. Starting out with a few of those clouds earlier today, we've really seen those partly cloudy skies throughout the day, but we have seen plenty of sunshine. As we look over to Stonecrest, looking at a little bit more of those blue skies with a few stray clouds over there as well. And as you look at really look at satellite and radar, we are seeing those clouds that have been moving in throughout the day. Good news is we have been dry, and that'll continue as we head into most of the day on Wednesday before we bring back a few of those scattered rain chances. Like I said, pretty warm outside. Most of us already into those lower 80s, some spots into the upper 70s, but definitely feeling a lot like summer. And if you're a little sniffly today, maybe your throat's just a little bit scratchy, it's those allergies for sure. Trees right now very high. Grass is also high as well. And a little bit of bad news is we're really not going to see relief as we headed to tomorrow. I think it's going to be later Thursday into Friday, and that's because those rain chances finally increase. So we have another warm Wednesday ahead, few showers late Wednesday, but the best chance is definitely going to be Thursday into your Friday, and that continues into the weekend as well. So hopefully you'll get a little bit of that allergy relief as we head really into the next couple of days, but one more day of it for sure. But I'll have that full forecast coming up for you guys in just a little bit. Steve.
All right, thank you, Paige. The University of Northern Iowa is remembering one of its former student athletes. The university saw 25-year-old Michaela Redinger as a model student. Her life was cut short when she was shot driving home from work Sunday morning. Police say this shooting is unlike anything they have seen. But one of her coaches says Redinger was like one of their own children.
Student athletes become like children or like second children to our coaches. And so a day like this is something that you never want to go through.
Right now, police do not have reason to believe Michaela and the 2 other passengers in the car were targeted. One of the passengers was injured but is recovering in the hospital. They are also considering that the shot was possibly fired near the interstate by a hunter. Police have not yet recovered the bullet. The suspect in last year's Capital Gazette newspaper office shooting is now pleading insanity. Jared Ramos's lawyers entered a not guilty plea on his behalf last year. Yesterday's revised plea says he is not criminally responsible due to mental disability. Ramos is accused of opening fire inside the Capital Gazette offices in Annapolis last June. 5 people were killed in that shooting and 2 more were injured. Two people accused of taking a teenager against her will from Kentucky to Ohio were back in front of a judge today. Tiffany Cheek and Michael Nason are facing multiple charges after police say they kidnapped a 16-year-old and took her to Cincinnati. WYMT's Phil Pendleton has more on what happened today in court.
It will be a little bit longer before we learn the specifics on the case involving three people accused of taking one teenage girl from Corbin to Cincinnati. But while this case proceeds through the court system, it appears that at least two of these suspects will be staying in jail. Tiffany Cheek is accused of tricking a 16-year-old girl into thinking she had a new guardian. Michael Nason of engaging in sexual activity with the teenager while she was locked in the back of a U-Haul. A third suspect remains in Cincinnati facing drug charges, but is also expected to answer to human trafficking and other related charges in Knox County. The three are accused of taking the girl to Cincinnati and possibly other cities, all the while she was trapped in the back of the truck. Today in court, attorneys waived their right to a preliminary hearing, and the case was sent to a grand jury. The judge also refused to lower Cheek and Nason's $100,000 cash bonds.
It's a very unique case. I mean, small town, you wouldn't think that it happens here, but it does. You know, unfortunately it does, and it's a very serious case, as indicative of the high bond set by the judge.
The two attorneys representing Michael Nason and Tiffany Cheek did not want to talk to us as they were leaving the courtroom, declining comment. In Knox County, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Police say the 16-year-old victim suffered a lot of mental trauma in the event and is undergoing counseling. Democratic leaders visited the White House today to talk infrastructure with President Donald Trump. Democratic leaders say they reached an agreement with the president to spend $2 trillion on a variety of infrastructure projects. But the biggest sticking point will be how to pay for it. The group will meet again in 3 weeks to hear funding ideas from the president.
The first infrastructure projects really should be to secure our sovereign nation and give it borders that are real and that work.
The border wall divided the two sides the last time the president met with the Democratic leaders in the Oval Office, with President Trump threatening a government shutdown if Democrats did not agree to fund his border wall. The new acting head of Homeland Security told lawmakers his agency needs more money to deal with the border crisis. His testimony comes as the Trump administration issued a memo calling for new regulations for asylum seekers. The president directed his agencies to propose regulations that adjudicate asylum applications within 180 days, bar work permits for illegal border crossers, and charge fees for asylum and work permits. Acting DHS Secretary Kevin McAleenan told a House panel his agency is at a crisis point at the border.
We need sustained investment and additional emergency support at the southwest border to overcome the humanitarian and security crisis that we face.
McAleenan told lawmakers his agency could see 70,000 asylum applications this fiscal year in a system that is already severely backlogged. An attempted uprising is underway in Venezuela, and a warning: the video we're about to show you is graphic. A Venezuela National Guard vehicle ran over protesters today and doused water cannons at crowds outside a military base in Caracas. This follows opposition leader Juan Guaido's call on members of the military to rise up. Armed forces loyal to President Nicolas Maduro exchanged gunfire with forces loyal to Guaido outside a military base after Guaido's speech earlier this morning. Experts believe the number of children killed because of neglect or abuse each year is largely undercounted by as much as half.
Data drives resources. When we don't have an accurate count of a problem, we can't make the arguments to invest adequate resources to fix it.
I've seen it before, and I would have never thought it happened to me, that it'd be my child left in the car.
Ryan Heyer's daughter Cheyenne died when her mother left her in a hot car. Cheyenne's death was counted and led to public awareness campaigns that potentially saved lives. But we found in a year-long investigation, many children are not being counted, exposing a need to fix flaws with incomplete data and faulty reporting of neglect cases. We investigate federal failures tonight at 5:30 on WYMT. Let's head over to Wall Street now on this Tuesday afternoon. The Dow closes up today more than 38 points. Well, did you watch the latest episode of Game of Thrones? Many people did. Well, you may have seen a familiar Eastern Kentucky face. Johnson County native and country music star Chris Stapleton posted this photo on Instagram. This past Sunday's episode, titled The Long Night, featured the Battle of Winterfell, a battle between the living and the dead. Stapleton made a cameo appearance as a member of the Free Folk, but you may not have seen him if you were not looking closely. He was not on screen for long. Stapleton says he's a huge fan of the show and he was glad to be a small part of it.
British police are asking victims of sexual assault to hand over their electronics before an investigation begins. I'm Gwen Baumgartner with a look at the controversial new policy.
And our next weather maker looks to move into the mountains by the end of the work week. We'll break down that full forecast in just a few short minutes.